So there's something that a lot of people in our audience don't actually know about us as a company, and that is where our profits go. So can you tell us where the money goes?
So the money that DaniJohnsonCom makes, after, of course, taking care of the staff, and the staff has a profit sharing bonus, and of course the IRS gets like, actually a big portion, more than, anyway, I think they almost get most of it. Anyway, so the profits, like, right, every single order that comes in through our office, immediately 10% is taken off the top, and it goes straight to taking care of kids who have no food. So it goes straight to feeding an orphan. And then with the profits, like at the end of the year, we know what all of our profits are, and then we are able to do other projects with that, like freeing kids out of the sex trade, putting in wells, building houses for the extreme poor, and taking care of widows and the elderly. So that's where the profits go. I do not take a salary, and I don't touch the profits.
But that has not always been how you've chosen to direct your money. So I want to go all the way back to when you first started in business. What did that money mean to you then?
Such a great question. Okay, so when I first started in business, you know, I was a 19-year-old kid who had majority of my childhood was spent in poverty. So we were on welfare, and then, like I said, in many other places, like the dinner sometimes would be Wonder Bread and margarine and garlic salt. So when I was about 14 years old, my parents got the fullness of the settlement for my mom breaking her neck. So 2 years we had money, right? So now it went from like only pasta to steaks, and just the cheapest of everything to like the most expensive. And they spent money like absolutely crazy. They bought a big house, 3,000 square feet. They bought like 6 cars. My mom had a huge diamond. Like they just went completely hog wild in every way that they could. So I was there for 2 years of that. And what that increased in our house was an insane amount of intense more abuse than what we had before, because cocaine was delivered when they could buy these expensive drugs versus the cheap drugs. And so when I was 19 and I started in business for myself, the first 6 months I totally failed at this time. So I'm now turning 20. Between 20 and 21, I start making quite a bit of money. And I made, for me was a lot, $50,000 in 6 months, which was a ton after 6 months of zeros. So I spent it. I totally spent it, man. I was like, oh, I'm going to Nordstrom. So like right away, I started like blowing it, you know, eating out and just, you know, doing what most people do, right? So then, of course, I end up the next year homeless after meeting and marrying a guy that I knew for 7 days. And now I'm homeless. And then after being homeless, I started a business from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth and make $250,000 my first year. Now, here's what's interesting, is that after I made that first $50,000 and then I ended up homeless, I was like, whoa, you're always thinking, I wish I would have like saved some of it. You know what I mean? Why did I buy all those suits and all those accessories and all those clothes, and why did I eat out so much? Like there's so much, when you've screwed up financially, you do look back and go, you know, I should have done this, I should have done that. And then you quickly forget that. So anyway, so I had made that $250,000, and I lived pretty frugal in that first year. I lived pretty frugal, and then bought a house, and then furnished it with everything that was nice, and then there you go again. You're right back to your bondage of spending, and yeah, like I had $25,000 spending sprees. Rode around in limos. I traveled all over the country. First class, stayed in the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Like, had a limo pick me up from the airport, and I was hungry and I wanted McDonald's. So the limo took me through McDonald's. I mean, this was like my normal everyday life. $5,000 suits, just crazy. $1,200 dinners, you know, bought cruises for all my friends. Just crazy. Like I blew it like crazy, like it was nothing. And then got married, started having kids, and then, you know, my kids were dressed from everything from Nordstrom's, $100 pair of little tiny shoes for my daughter, like just dumb, right? So those 10 years, the first 10 years of making all that money we like lived a first class, ridiculous life. Bought lots of houses, you know, $1 million houses with 10 acres and pools and tennis courts and views of the backside of Yosemite National Park, you know, 7 couches, just excess in every form of the word. Yeah.
So I want to know how you thought that was going to make you feel and how it actually made you feel.
Okay. I think that the way in my mind, first of all, I learned initially from a millionaire, right? And I went to these seminars, right? And so that they would kind of tell me what success looked like, right? So it was like he was in limos, right? He had like 6 cars. He would go down to the Cayman Islands. He had a yacht. You know what I mean? So he had this like crazy lavish lifestyle. So that's what I thought it was supposed to be. So I tried to follow paid cash for Mercedes, paid cash for another one. So that's kind of how I followed suit in that. Thinking that it was going to, this is a great question, thinking that it would help me feel worthy or useful or that I had some kind of value. I wish I knew the exact word that I'm trying to express that, because even those words just have these already predetermined definitions. But even though I had made money, and even though I'd had this kind of recognition, and even though I had been on television, even though I had all this crazy notoriety, it didn't feel successful. I felt still pretty useless. I still was afraid. I still battled with fear. I felt that somehow if I wore really nice clothes, people would like me. If I had a nice car, people would like me. If I had an important position, like president, founder, and CEO of 2 multi-million-dollar companies, whatever, because one wasn't enough, somehow they would like me. If I was in limos, I would somehow be valued. I'd be important. And it was all a lie. None of it was true. No matter how much I bought, no matter how much I splurged, no matter how much I bought other people, no matter how much I spoiled other people, that feeling never went away. And sadly, it had proved to be not a great thing. There was a lot of manipulation, but I didn't know I was doing it. You know what I mean? I was trying to buy people's love and acceptance. I was trying to earn their love and acceptance, and it just, no matter what, though, I had to deal with this crap that was on the inside of me, that no amount of shopping or splurging on myself or other people could fix it. It was an internal thing, not an external thing.
So when you first kind of had that realization, how did your lifestyle change?
Like dramatically. It wasn't necessarily an overnight thing. Sort of. I can't say it wasn't complete. I mean, there were some things that were definitely overnight. I had an amazing experience. The things that God has taught me is just crazy. And how he's taught it to me is absolutely nuts. And the reality is that when you spend a lot of time like in prayer and like reading the Bible, not because of a religious thing, but I was curious, I was hungry, I was empty, and I was wanting to be filled. And, you know, so much of my prayers have been like, change me, God, deliver me, help me, right? Because I would have these internal battles, no matter how much everything looked awesome on the inside, I was miserable. I mean, on the outside, I was miserable on the inside. So these would be my prayers, like, deliver me, you know, help me, like, because I had so much anxiety that I didn't even know that that's what it was. And so it was like this constant turmoil. And then I've had a heart condition that developed out of all the stress and the pressure of it. Plus I was born with a deformity in my heart. Didn't know that until, you know, you have a heart attack at 24, and until, you know, you start passing out 4 times a day, then you go, I think I might want to get this checked out. So anyway, yeah, I had a really powerful experience with God after we had just bought our $1 million, like crazy, gigantic home. And the question that came to my spirit was, who is this all for? I'm like, it's not for Hans, man. That guy could live like barefoot in a coffee shack in Hawaii and be totally happy. Like, then who's it all for? Like, it's not for my kids. They don't need any of this. Like, the last house had a Walmart swing set and a blow-up pool. They were totally happy. They don't need a pool, a tennis court, and a diving board and a swing, and they don't need any of that. Then who is this all for? And man, to come to the end of those questions and realize it was all about me, that I put myself under this stress and pressure, that I put my husband under this kind of stress and pressure, that I created all this debt, and I still wasn't happy. Like I had all this shopping and I still wasn't happy. Like nothing was making me happy. I was still just so fearful and anxious and stressed out and trying to work towards something, even though I had tons of recognition, I felt nothing inside, right? So he said, sell your things and follow me. Long story short, we did. And we like literally moved into in our words, a little tiny house, which from 5,600 square foot house to 2,400 square foot, 7 couches to 1, a 300 square foot big giant closet filled with all my stuff to a normal apartment size closet. A lot of stuff got pitched. A lot of stuff got sold. A lot of stuff got given away. And to be honest with you, that very first week in that house was absolutely glorious. Even though it had 5 different colors of carpet, even though it had Formica, the fake butcher board countertops, even though it had these huge powder blue frilly drapes, like there was nothing in this house that was like us. We had houses that were filmed in magazines that we lived in our 20s, right? And now I'm in this normal neighborhood in this old house in this stucco, dirty on the outside, this ugly roof that needs to be replaced. Like everything was a mess. But I remember just going, wow, this is really easy to take care of. And I didn't care that the kids came in with mud on their feet. I didn't care that they put their fingers on the sliding glass door. Not that I didn't care for my house and didn't clean it anymore, but it was like such a relief off of me. And I remember before we moved, I remember having this vision that a lot of friends would leave because we no longer had the big house and I was retired now and I wasn't the speaker anymore and I didn't have these big businesses anymore. We just sold everything and that did happen. That literally did happen. People that we thought were really close friends just completely disappeared. I was replaced by doctors' wives and other more successful people, and we just were like, people just like forgot about us. And that was harsh, man. That was crazy. But again, I sowed that, right? I bought people's acceptance with how I lavished them with gifts and dinners and entertaining them. It wasn't a true relationship. It was like a facade. So
how did you decide that this business was going to be set up the way that it is, specifically to care for the poor?
So here we're living in this small little house, and I felt the intense desire to help people again. And this is after 4 years of retirement. And again, I'm not happy. I'm still like, because I'm not happy because of my house or my stuff. So again, the entire journey was just one lesson after another of God bringing me through, healing me from trying to get people's acceptance from what I performed to be. So that whole journey was to just rid all of that crap right out of me, and he clearly 100% did. So then it came to Dani Raw. Who am I? Who am I? What am I really about? And when I came down to the bedrock of who I wasn't, and then discovering who I was, I had such a passion to help people. And this burden was so very strong, and I just kept crying out to God, please use me. Please use me. Do something with my life. And he really stirred me to speak again and to help people, like to help bring the answers that we had just learned through those 4 years, right? Which is where War on Debt was birthed, right? And learning how to become frugal, being faithful with the little, which now is the first time we've ever been able to create wealth, was because we learned God's financial principles versus just money, greed, gluttony. It was like, okay. So we started a business, and the whole point of starting it was to give. See, I sat in church one day and I heard about girls being abducted and being sold into the sex trade in Thailand. And it wrecked me. It absolutely wrecked me to my core. And I felt so purposeless at church. Even when we had made millions, all we were good for was writing a check. That's it. We had no place in that church besides a tithe. And so then we moved up to the mountains and I felt the same thing. Like, I have no purpose here. So the tithe is less because I'm not making millions right now, right? So, okay, whatever. But all we're good for is a check. When I saw on that screen the whole sex trade thing, it wrecked me so bad. And I turned to Hans and I said, we wrote a check for $2,000 for that. And I remember going, it's not enough. It's not enough. Like, what is this $2,000 going to do? It might help one kid. There's millions of kids that need help. It's not enough. Now, $2,000 is a pretty big check to write, to donate to helping some missionary, right? Or some kind of ministry that's doing something. But to me, it wasn't enough. And that kept just resonating inside of me, and it made me mad that it wasn't enough. And that's when I began to pray, like, God, like, give me a chance to do something. Please, like, use me in some way. And if I ever got the chance to speak again, I want to tell the truth about you. I want to tell the truth about where the state of the church is right now. I want to tell the truth about money. And let me equip people to succeed wildly so we can help this. Like, we can make a difference in this. And so there was the birth of DaniJohnsonCom.
How many homes have been built?
A lot. We have built, just in the last 3 years, we've built 1,500 homes, which is pretty awesome. We also built homes in Haiti also, but most of those were down in Nicaragua. The 1,500 were in Nicaragua. We built 200 in Haiti. We've put in thousands and thousands of water supplies. We've supplied water for 1 million people now, which is crazy. Those lives are totally changed. We feed 60,000 orphans a year, which is crazy. We have freed over 4,000 kids out of the sex trade. Crazy. We help thousands of the elderly whose families have forgotten them. So I'm blown away, to be honest with you, that we get to do this and that we have a business that is so profitable and that those profits can be directed to helping people who are truly in need. And more importantly than that, that this business has actually led people to their Father and to walk with Him in a totally different way than maybe religion has told them they're to walk with Him. So it's led them to Him in a deeper relationship there. Those people have also been able to be free of these internal struggles that they have, the same ones that I had, be free of the debt that they have, to experience true freedom emotionally, true freedom mentally, true freedom spiritually, true freedom physically and financially, and turn around and join us on this crazy, wild adventure of taking the profits from a company and helping people who cannot help themselves at all. They cannot help themselves. They were born into this poverty, period, in the wrong country or the right country. And maybe it's our mandate to do something about it. I'm Nicaraguan. When I went to Nicaragua, it was like, I could be that child who's dirty, who has no clothes on, who has no food, who has no shelter. That could have been me. If my dad had not come to the U.S., that would have been me. Clearly that would have been me. So why is it not? Because I wasn't born there. And it's the same for all the rest of us. So I am so passionate about seeing families wrap their heads around and then begin to activate and using their resources in their business and in their career or their influence of their mouth through their own neighborhood to rally for those who can't help themselves. And if that means that they're raising money or they're giving money, I don't care. But I just see that we can so change the world and impact millions upon tens of millions of lives by us using our skill and our talent to produce food, water, shelter, education, a completely changed life for people that will never have it unless we do something.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DaniJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been The Dani Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more